Many of us have diversions in our life. We might have one diversion in our life, and that could be a thing or an actual person. And if it's a person, we end up taking a lot of our time to understand that person, to really try to get into their psyche and understand why they do what they do. But what does that do for us? Well, we put ourselves on the back burner. We don't look into our own psyche. We don't try to figure ourselves out. We're actually trying to figure them out. So in today's video, I'm going to explain diversions, how to figure out if you have one in your life, and how to actually take that diversion from getting you off target to actually being your catalyst for personal change. Hi there, friends. Ashley Berges back today. And today I'm going to be talking about diversions and how many of us have a diversion in our life. And more often than not, it comes in the form of another human being. And that other human being, just like us, have their own issues and their own problems, okay? But when we're around someone else, usually their problems and issues seem a lot more simpler to actually figure out, or they seem very complex and we go head first into their issues and we don't take time to actually deal with our own. So in today's video, I'm going to explain diversions as well as how that diversion, that particular person, can actually be a catalyst to positive change in your life if understood properly and worked on properly. So let's begin. If you go online, there are thousands, probably millions of self-help books. And I find it interesting because many people are reading those self-help books to try to figure out the person they're in the relationship with. Okay, they're trying to figure out what's wrong with them, how are they, clinically defined, and what issues are they dealing with, and how can they interact with this person properly. And I find that interesting because a lot of times people are reading the self-help books to try to figure out someone else when they really need to figure out why they got into the relationship in the first place and what is this supposed to teach them, right? I know that sometimes we talk about toxicity, and I talk about toxic relationships a lot on this channel, right? And I talk about it a lot of times from the codependent point of view, but I talk about it because toxic relationships are just that. It takes two to tango, right? It takes both people in the relationship to create the toxicity. It's not just one or the other. And so sometimes people get a little angry that I point this out, but I'm not trying to put it on one person or the other. I'm saying in order for the relationship to be toxic, both people have to be in it, right? So when we think about toxic relationships, though, those are the ones with the red flags. Those are the ones that are problematic. And those are the ones that we get lost in. If you're dealing from a codependent standpoint, you begin to lose your identity in that other person. And their issues and their stuff begin to take on center stage. And you begin to kind of fall back into the background. However, that might have been how it's been for a long period of time in your life with various different people that you've actually dated. And so in today's video, I just want to talk about those diversions and how to really transform that into a positive stance. The first thing we find ourselves doing in these relationships when we found somebody to be a diversion that happens to be another human being that we're in a relationship with, we're trying to figure out what is wrong usually with the other person, right? What are their problems? What are their issues? Where do they stem from? Where did this come from? And, usually the relationship started at some level in a somewhat semi-good way. And then over time, things seem to change and we seem to see other people's true colors. And we begin to realize there's something off, right? And so we really try to focus and pinpoint in on that to figure out where it's coming from, why this person's acting this way, why are they challenging me this situation, why are they arguing with me, why are they fighting with me, why are they giving me the silent treatment, why are they being mean, all that. Okay, why are they being secretive? And so we try to fixate on trying to figure out why that is. And I totally understand because we want to get to the bottom of it. I recently did a video on being the private investigator in your relationship. And sometimes you can get in a relationship and it seems like you're dealing in a situation that's really extremely black and white. There's no gray. There's no explanation. You don't feel like you're getting the true story or the full story. And so you start trying to investigate, pulling the wrapper apart when in reality, you really don't know what you're trying to grasp at. You just know that something doesn't necessarily feel right. However, in these situations, we get lost in the shuffle of their life or what's happening instead of really seeing how does this make me feel? Or better yet, why am I becoming the private investigator in the relationship? What does that say about me? Or what does that say about my fear? or my fear of trust, or what's happened to me in the past that has actually gotten in the way of me being able to trust other people. You see what I'm saying? So there's like lots of different levels here that we need to figure out, and it's not all about the other person. However, we fixate on that in the beginning, and there has to be some sort of turning point to make that change. Another aspect of the diversion. So when the diversion comes in the form of another person, often the relationship at one point was something of what you wanted. Maybe you were getting a lot of attention. Maybe the person puts you on a pedestal, okay? And it felt good because maybe it was the first time in a long time or the first time ever. And all of a sudden, though, through the days, the weeks, the months, things started changing. And all of a sudden, you're kind of knocked off your pedestal, and it's almost like you feel like you're being devalued or even taken for granted, or even you've been discarded, right? And you're trying to figure out how to get that person to like you again, or to take care of you, or to treat you like how they used to treat you, right? And so we get fixated in trying to figure out, what do I have to say, or what did I do that upset that person, or how can I be different, or how can I change myself to get this person to like me again, or to love me again, or to treat me well again. And you see what I'm saying? Like, we start literally getting so lost down the rabbit hole of how to get them to treat us like they did before that we don't really see the situation again. And so, you know, from a bird's eye view, if you were to be able to pull out of it emotionally and be able to see it, you know, pragmatically, you would realize, okay, something did change. Now, have I been any different? Probably not. But somehow or not, I went from being at this level to being discarded. It's not what you've done. It's what's really happened in the relationship, and maybe how the person sees you based on historical record of cycles within their life, right? But we don't see that. And so that's why with these diversions, it can be very mysterious or overwhelming, or we begin to internalize the issue within ourselves because we're trying to beat ourselves up to try to figure out how to get back into their good graces. Okay, so I'm just going to be revealing a few more things in this video that might help to put things into perspective for you. You know, the next thing about having that diversion in your life is that a lot of times we can get overwhelmed by the negativity of it. This person is pushing on my buttons. They get so angry. They're so severe. We have these, you know, these arguments. I don't think I can handle it anymore. They're pushing me to the brink. They know how to push all my buttons. I get it. I get it. And it's hard to move past the emotional corruption of the situation too, because we get so emotionally invested. We get so angry. Our emotions are running extremely high. And we don't take the time to really understand, one, how we got there, right? But also what we can do to minimize the blowback and the fallout, but also what can we do in our own life to make these changes. We have a tendency of thinking that this is happening at us, it's happening to us, that we are possibly the victim in the situation. However, we're only the victim as long as we tell ourselves that we're the victim, right? That's the key. And so I find that many times when we get into these relationships with these diversions, we begin to almost feel the victim, or we lose our identity because we get so engrossed in what they're doing. And it's so hard for us to step back emotionally and see the truth. And so that's, you know, when I'm working with clients, that's what we do, is we step back emotionally and understand, okay, where are we? How do we get here? Why is this pushing your button? What is the connectivity from here to here? Why was this created? Why did you get in this relationship in the first place? What was that feeling when you first met this person? And going back to the beginning of how this started in your life, because it was your norm, and why the norm was your norm, right? I mean, all of these things are entirely important to understand the historical reference to why we get into a relationship. You know, I find that very interesting, because a lot of people want to start, okay, I just want to start with this last relationship. I don't want to talk about anything else. I don't want to go backwards into my past relationships. I don't want to go back to my childhood. However, we can't leave these parts off, okay? We can't just have chapters that are just missing pages in a book, right? We can't do that. So the book is made up of chapters of pages. All of this make up your life. And so these are very important things to think about, because if we actually go back and understand how you got there, this could be the catalyst to your massive personal positive change in your life that can really open your eyes to why you do what you do and how you got into the relationship in the first place. When we're dealing with the diversion as well, Because the diversion is only a diversion when we're diverting our energy to them and not looking at our own self to try to figure our own selves out, right? The diversion stops being a diversion when we stop diverting our energy toward them, okay? And we actually start working on ourselves and realizing that we too have to work on our issues as well. And so one of the things that I ask to do is seeing how you connect with the other person, because we connect with them, seeing how we gel with them, and seeing the arguments as well, and trying to understand and piece that relationship together, because we can get a lot of information where we stand, what's holding us back, but we can also understand ourselves very deeply when we begin to understand how we connect with that person or how we don't connect with that person. And last but not least, working with someone who can help you identify this, okay? This is so important to understand the diversion. How to identify the diversion to begin with. How to identify how you interact with the diversion. How to understand how you brought the diversion into your life and how this came to be. Okay, that's something that I work on with my clients every day, because we can understand exactly why this started, why we brought it into our life, how it was created, okay? And one of the things that I found is that many clients in the very beginning get really upset with themselves. How could I be in this toxic relationship? How could I have gone down this road? How did I create this? What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you, okay? It's not like you're this bad person. It's because you were trained at some level to want this for your life. It's not that you just came up with this out of thin air, okay? This is something that you have been around for a long time, and so it feels very natural and normal for you to connect with this, okay? It's almost like you're attracted to it, right? And the interesting part about it is the other person who's the diversion is actually attracted to you as well from their historical record, right? And you're a diversion to them, because they think that you actually probably have more issues than they do, and they're trying to figure you out. Do you see how this is basically a mirror upon a mirror upon a mirror upon a mirror? It's almost like a riddle. And so that's why it's so deep when you think about relationships and the connectivity in all these choices. These are the questions and these are the layers that have to be peeled back to understand our true intent. To understand the why we get on autopilot and why we choose certain things and why certain things really, really get to us at the core and why we accept other things. I hope this video has helped you, and I've had multiple diversions in my own life. I've gone through it. I've created it. You know, the smarter you are, you create a diversion in another human being, right? Because it takes the responsibility off you from dealing with your own issues. It takes the responsibility off you from seeing yourself clearly, because if you have someone else's issues in your face all the time, their issues seem really huge and seems like you can help them and you can solve and fix them, when in reality we have our own waiting for us to fix inside of ourselves. And until we actually get past the diversions and realize that the diversion is just a mirror to show us something that we need to work on, until we get there, we don't understand ourselves. And that's why we have the toxic cycle and patterns that we have, right? Because we keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. But really, we keep doing the same thing because we're hoping that one day we're going to wake up and see that this is the catalyst to our change. And that the reason why we keep having the same things over and over again is because it's what we have to work on, because we've never worked on it yet in our own self. Please share this video with your friends and family. And if you have anything to add to this, please add in the comment section below as well. And think about the diversions, but also think about the diversion is not that bad. It's actually a catalyst to actually helping you change and wake up to your true self. Don't forget to live your true life.